Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to the PWTorch Fireside Chat for Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. Hello, I'm PWTorch Assistant Editor Zach Haydorn here to preview tonight's episode of NXT. Hopefully, you guys are on your ways right now to a relaxing holiday week, relaxing Thanksgiving week here in the United States, and just hopefully everybody's having a good life out there. It is 50 degrees here in Chicago after being in the 20s. I'm a happy camper. Azan, what's up, man? Welcome into the show. Glad you're here. Glad you're all here. If you missed some stuff on the YouTube channel, I call your attention to a couple things. Number one, we have a brand new Haydorn Watches Wrestling episode up there right now. Just went up a couple minutes ago. It's there for you. It's been a while since we put one of those up. I watched a really fun match after listening to William Regal talk on the Steve Austin Show podcast. And got a really cool match out of it and was like, I must tell the world about this if you haven't heard it already. So that's up now. Again, just went up a couple minutes ago. You can check that out. You can also check back and check out our Full Gear coverage from last week. It was a busy week. Full Gear happened, good and bad, all across the spectrum of good and bad, I think, on that show. And we'll talk about it more on tomorrow's edition of the PWTorch Fireside Chat. Normally, our flagship Fireside Chat episode is on Thursdays. But because Thursday is Thanksgiving, we are moving it up a day, and we will do it tomorrow afternoon. So you can schedule time, pencil us in if you can, and what is surely a busy day for a lot of us. But check that out. Dr. Ross, so yeah, good question. So the rest of the week's schedule is as follows. We will be, obviously we're live right now. Thank you all for being here. We're going to preview NXT here in a minute. Tomorrow, we will have our flagship episode of the Fireside Chat where we talk the news of the week. And we'll also, on that same episode, so we'll go a little bit longer tomorrow, and we'll start a little bit earlier just to factor in that people are going to be heading out of town or traveling or whatnot. We'll start a little bit earlier, and we will preview tomorrow night's episode of AEW Dynamite. We'll be off on Thursday. Unless, some crazy breaking news hits, maybe Vince McMahon will be back in WWE. We'll have to hop on and do a show about that. But we likely will not be live on Thanksgiving, which is Thursday. And then Friday, back at it. Friday, we'll be back at it with our regular SmackDown preview. And then Saturday, live watch-along Torchcast for WWE Survivor Series. So busy week here on the PWTorch YouTube channel. I'm glad everybody's here. Great question, Dr. Ross. I appreciate it, and hopefully you join us for that. Let's get into it. Let's talk NXT. And hello, Steven, and all who else joined live. Great to have you here. Very much appreciate it. So, kind of I'd call. Let's just say that this week's NXT is very much a one-match show. Very much a one-match show, because after that main event, it falls off a freaking cliff as far as what they have promoted now anyway, which isn't much anyway. So let's start with the main event, because I think that's kind of the most intriguing thing, and hopefully it takes up a good chunk of the second hour of NXT tonight. We have Wes Lee defending his NXT North American Championship against the two-time champion Carmelo Hayes. Last week on NXT, they had a pretty effective in-ring segment, contract signing, face-to-face deal, where I thought both guys really just looked like $1 million out there, especially Wes Lee. Like, he's really stood out in a positive way. I don't want to be over dramatic about it. He's not, there yet in terms of, fully flushing out who his character is and what his personality is. But when you think about where he was as this kind of lost tag team guy to where he is now. I mean, he's found a personality. He just needs to figure out how to emphasize it in a bigger way. He's found a voice. I think he can cut some good promos. I think it's clear that he's passionate about the wrestling business and wants to be a big time star. That comes across in how he presents himself. He can wrestle his ass off. He can really go inside the ring and can go with the best of them. So watching him in that segment last week, I'm like, man, like this guy has found something. He has found something. What's up, Hassan? Thanks for joining us. He has found something. And that's a good thing. And it can only go up from there. Because like I said, he's not a finished product yet either. So he's got a long way to go. And he's just scratching the surface now of some of what his potential is. And to me, that's a really good sign. If you're Paul Levesque, if you're Shawn Michaels, if you're tasked with finding new talent, he can be somebody. Is he somebody that's going to hold your world title and be in the WrestleMania main event against Roman Reigns? No, he probably won't be. Never say never, of course, but he probably won't be. But that still doesn't mean that he can't be a big time contributor in NXT for sure. But even on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, like I think he's got some chops. So I'm really looking forward to this match. Carmelo Hayes, look, we know what he can be. Like he has shown so much regular potential. It's surprising that NXT still even gets to use him on a regular basis, given what that potential is, and given that Paul Levesque is running the main roster right now. Like the fact that Carmelo Hayes is not up on the main roster is probably a good thing, in some ways, because there's a lot going on the main roster right now, and not a lot of new faces on the main roster right now, where if he makes his debut, he instantly kind of like fades into the background because he's not going to be a part of the main story. I mean, he may come in and like have a debut match against Seth Rollins or Riddle or somebody like on that level, but I don't think he's going to get a sustained push with everything going on in the main roster. And Roman Reigns and Austin Theory is a priority. They've got Johnny Gargano, who just got returned to the company. There's just a lot of people who are ahead of him in line. And so at some point you got to bring him up for sure. But I think he's one of those guys that you wait on. You don't bring him up unless you have something ready to go for him. That's big time, because that's how important he is. And I think that's the kind of potential that he has to be a player, to be a big time player for Raw or for SmackDown or for both someday. In the ring, I mean, the guy's probably as polished of any of the NXT 2.0 focused acts. When you think about Von Wagner and Braun Breaker and Mandy Rose and that core initial NXT 2.0 group of talent, I mean, Carmelo Hayes to me is far and away, the most polished star and most polished wrestler. And so there's a really interesting dichotomy and dynamic in this match tonight between Wes Lee and Carmelo Hayes. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. That for me is going to be like appointment viewing. Not going to want to miss that. I'm going to be holding off Twitter because I will not be able to watch it live. So going to mute some words. We've all been there before. Probably Wrestle Kingdom is words that I mute once a year on Twitter, so I don't get spoiled on that major show. But same thing here. I mean, this is going to be a pretty cool match, pretty interesting match, and I'm excited to see which way it goes. I mean, Braun Breaker needs a real opponent for the NXT Championship. Like it's gone on too long where he's just had these filler opponents, right? He's had JD McDonough, he's had Tyler Bate, who we haven't seen. He's had Von Wagner. He's just, I mean, it's felt like it's been like filler stuff all along the way. Like, well, or Tommaso Ciampa, like not bad matches by any means, but not like real kind of core feuds with people that are on his level. It's like Tommaso Ciampa, like that program happened because they wanted Ciampa to help bring Breaker along. Same thing with Bate. Same thing with McDonough. Like, that was the point. That was the point of those feuds. And I'm probably missing somebody too. Excuse me. Needed caffeine fix. So when I look at the picture of NXT right now, that to me is something that's very important to consider. Who is going to be the next real challenger for Bron Breakker? And when you add that thought into the new concept that was just brought up last week, that Shawn Michaels rolled out to the survival challenge match, or the survival Iron Man match, or whatever it's called. The winner of that on the men's and women's side gets a title shot. So when I look at that, I go, Carmelo Hayes is your guy. He's the guy. He is the guy to win that match, because that's his ticket. That's his ticket to a feud with Bron Breakker. That's his ticket to the NXT Championship. That's how you get him there in a reasonable way, where losing this match tonight makes sense, and I hope they can figure out a way to do it where it's not some kind of like fluke finish. Because if you're Wes Lee, you don't want that. You need like a clear win. And then, Carmelo Hayes will be fine. He's going to move out of the North American Championship division, if you will, and jump right on into the main heavyweight title picture with this whole deal. And so, that's an okay job to do. Do that job for Wes Lee, do it clean, and then get yourself in the survival Iron Man challenge or whatever it's called, and go from there. That's how you protect Carmelo Hayes, by putting him in that match right away and having him win it. Not only do you protect him, but then you get Bron Breakker like a real opponent, maybe for a match at Deadline, or excuse me, not at Deadline, because that's when what am I saying? That's when the survival Iron Man challenge is going to take place. So that won't happen. But maybe there's going to be something at Royal Rumble weekend, some kind of NXT show like connected to Royal Rumble weekend. You can do it then. Can you hold it and do it, Breakker versus Carmelo Hayes at like a WrestleMania at some point? Or not WrestleMania, but like at WrestleMania weekend NXT stuff, Stand and Deliver show. Possibility. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I mean, it can happen. But the bottom line is, this is going to be a heck of a match. Or this. Yeah, great call is on. Do it at New Year's Evil. That can work. That can work. But you need to give Breakker something that he can sink his teeth into. Carmelo Hayes is the answer, and Wes Lee can then kind of run the NXT North American Championship division, if you will. There's a lot of opponents he can face, like at that level. Carmelo Hayes has wrestled a lot of them already. I mean, he has. So it's a fresher division with Wes Lee, at the top of it. Let's just put it that way. Sean, welcome on into the show. Thanks for being here, man. Appreciate you. Hope you're having a good day. Okay, so that's Wes Lee versus Carmelo Hayes. Like I said, appointment viewing. This should be a really good match, guys. I mean, both these guys can work. And Carmelo Hayes is teetering on the edge of a heel that's being cheered. But I think Wes Lee can keep him on the heel side of things. Like, I think Wes Lee is a really good babyface right now. Pathetic babyface, but a talented one too, and one that people are okay investing in because they've been along with him on this weird journey that he's had since losing his tag team partner. So we'll see. This. I'm the same way, Steven. Speaking of this division, right? Like Grayson Waller. I mean, remember, it wasn't long ago where Grayson Waller was on Raw messing with AJ Styles. He had a match with AJ Styles on NXT. And now all of a sudden he's dropped down the card. And I mean, he's wrestling Apollo Crews and he's in a feud there. It's like, I mean, I know Apollo Crews is a main roster talent, but that's not the sign of like, okay, this company is still high on me. I don't know what to say about Grayson Waller other than he's being underutilized right now. I mean, I think, he could have been, it should have been a challenger for Braun Breaker too, as somebody who's on Breaker's level, who needs experience, like at that level delivering. So maybe you put him into a feud with Wes Lee, coming out of this thing to keep the heat on Waller and like keep the sympathetic underdog babyface run of Wes Lee going. That can work, but man, yeah, I mean, Grayson Waller has had a fall from Grace. That's for sure. Okay, also on the show, Toxic Attraction is going to kick things off. They are promoting it as such, where Mandy Rose and Gigi Dolan and JC will be kicking off the show. We don't know what context that will be in, what they're going to have to say. I presume we may get some insight as to what the challenger situation will be like at the Deadline show here, because they're promoting it. So I don't know if it means maybe we get some kind of main roster appearance, or somebody from the main roster is going to come down and face Mandy Rose. It seems strange to me how they're booking this thing in terms of like, hey, Toxic Attraction is going to kick off the show. Watch this. I just don't know why you do that unless you have something planned, unless you have some kind of angle planned. And maybe it's not somebody from the main roster. I don't know. But I mean, this screams angle to me. Like, this is not just some random gloating promo from Mandy Rose and from Toxic Attraction. Like, this means something's happening. Something's going down. We're going to get an angle of some kind. Yeah, maybe it is Tiffany is on. Maybe that's the play. Maybe it's Tiffany, and Tiffany Stratton's going to be back. And I don't know. I don't know. Like, is that like a PLE worthy women's championship match? Like, I thought Tiffany Stratton was okay, but very much still super green and figuring out, not what it means to be a wrestler, but like how to work effectively. Like, she was very much like Nikita Lyons as far as that goes. Yeah. Okay. Joel Pearl coming in hot with a opinion. Get excited for Toxic Attraction versus Roxanne and KC2 in a 6-woman tag. That leads to Mandy and Roxanne for the title, and KC2 versus Gigi and Jane for the tag titles. Woohoo! Yeah. Well, you know what, Joel? Like, there you have it. I mean, that I think is a worthy, like, PLE main event, or not main event, but championship match in the women's division for like a Deadline show. I mean, Roxanne Perez and Mandy Rose, I like that match. I can't tell if the woo is exciting or sarcastic, but I'm a fan. Like, I'm a fan of that match. Like, there's two competing characters, polar opposites in terms of personality. Roxanne Perez, who's over as babyface and who works well as babyface and who gets, who gets a good reaction. And I think opposite Mandy Rose will also get, a good reaction. And same thing with KC2 and Gigi Dolan and JC Jane. Like, I think they're so different that they bring out kind of the best qualities of the other. And they seemingly have chemistry, up to this point anyway, especially Roxanne and Mandy. So I'm on board with that. If that's the road that they go down and they get the title off of Mandy Rose because they're going to bring Toxic Attraction to the main roster, thumbs up on that for me. I mean, obviously with Shades of Grey, it has to be effective and done right. But I think when Roxanne Perez pins Mandy Rose to the mat, like, say what you will about Mandy Rose, but they've done a nice job of kind of protecting her star power and, hiding her weaknesses and her flaws in the ring so that she can just kind of be a star. And when Roxanne beats her, she's going to have beaten somebody of importance. And so that to me is significant for Roxanne. And then she can kind of carry the brand a little bit. Like, the women's division in NXT will be on her shoulders, and you can go a lot of different ways with her as champion. You can go back to Roxanne Perez against Cora Jade, which we'll get to her in a minute. You can go to Roxanne against Zoe Stark. I mean, I think that works. So, I mean, those two feuds right out of the gate should eat up some of the calendar. And maybe you do try to build like a Roxanne versus Cora Jade rubber match at the NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver show during WrestleMania weekend. So, I don't know, but I think that there's more opportunity with her and more range as a babyface than there is as a babyface champion than there is with Mandy Rose continuing to hold on to that title. So, good stuff, Joel. Thanks for bringing that up. I kind of blanked on Roxanne Perez, or like Indy Hartwell is somebody you could do a match with because they've been kind of planting a seed there for Roxanne. That could be a title match down the road, too. Good stuff, Joel. Thank you, and thank you for being here, and thank you for watching as usual. Also tonight, Sol Ruca is going to wrestle Zoe Stark in what I can only assume is going to be a squash. I couldn't come up with the word there. That screams squash match to me. I'm okay with that. Zoe Stark just turned heel. She needs to kind of solidify herself and what that heel character is going to look like in the ring. A great way to do that is with squash matches. So that's what we're going to see there. Zoe Stark, my guess is we get some kind of Nikita Lyons run-in. Just a guess. And then we go from there. And finally, Wendy Choo will wrestle the formerly mentioned Cora Jade. They've had this little mini feud going on. I don't know. This Wendy Choo thing, not on board. Too undefined for my liking. I just don't get like the sleeping thing. Like she seems like a very hard character to get behind. It's funny and it's quirky, but it's kind of too cute in my eyes. And I think because of that and the fact that she's not gotten like that big win yet, like a big kind of defining babyface win that says, hey, fans, like, come on board, come on board the Wendy Choo, hype train. Like, Azan, if that happens, great. I just don't sense that like Wendy Choo has the same level of charisma as Orange Cassidy does to pull that off. And I'm not sure how many of those type of acts the wrestling business is ready for at this point in time. Like Orange Cassidy is kind of like 1 in a million in terms of that type of thing working. Like, can you replicate that? Maybe, but it takes a special kind of performer to do it. I haven't seen that out of Wendy Choo yet. So call me crazy. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it will happen, Azan. But I don't think we've seen it yet. So Cora Jade wins here and kind of gets back on the winning track, maybe for a potential match with Roxanne Perez. That's the show. I'm assuming we're going to get something with Braun Breaker tonight in regards to his Von Wagner match last week. My guess is we probably also will hear from Grayson Waller. He's just usually a staple of the show, so we will hear from him at some point. But outside of that, that's all that we've got. Azan, I want to get to your comment here really quick. That Zoe Stark promo last week was rough. I'd really like to poll our live viewership here. And we're going to get to this in a minute too, Azan. But I want to poll the live viewers on the Zoe Stark promo. Like, what? I thought it was good. I mean, not good, but I thought it was very serviceable for like a first heel promo. She looked comfortable. I thought she was engaging. She engaged well with the heat that she got. She got heat. She was believable and authentic, and she stumbled a little bit on some things, but like, I don't always count that against somebody delivering a promo. Sometimes when you do kind of miss on certain lines, it makes your promo come across as more authentic and off the cuff and real. Sometimes, not all the time. And this, I don't think she was derailed by that this past week. So I like that promo. Curious what everybody else thinks. I liked it. She got a thumbs up. I wrote about that in last week's NXT receipt column on PWTorch.com. You guys can check that out. Hopefully you guys are checking that out every week. I do one for Raw, for NXT, for AEW Dynamite. Those three usually during the week. So check it out, PWTorch.com. And then the question, yes, who is Scripps? I don't have a guess on this. I really don't. Like, it feels too much like Retribution 2.0. That's what it feels like to me, where it's kind of like this weird kind of concept, and it just doesn't have enough legs in terms of how it's been explained to this point to make it work. So I'm willing to let it play out, but I don't have any guesses as to who it might be. I'm curious, intrigued even. And speaking of groups, what's going on with the Joe Gacy group? I mean, you just had a big kind of moment for that group. Simone Johnson, the Rock's daughter, in there. This is what she's doing. This is how she's making her debut, in the company and in wrestling. Like, you got to give this group something else to do. I mean, they're just kind of around, and there's no context around it. Like, it's just kind of happening. And to me, it's like, if you put that star, Simone Johnson, in that group, you got to have something ready for her. How does she not have a feud right now? Even if it's just somebody that she's going to squash, like, get her in there, get that group out there, present them as big time. And right now, like, that kind of group really needs wins. They need wins. They need W's. They need momentum. Otherwise, all like the nonsense that they spew during their promos just doesn't, it falls on deaf ears. And they need to give it some juice. Like, I'm not saying that because I'm a fan of the group, but if it has any shot of being successful, it needs wins. It needs momentum. It needs a little love, right? Like, it does. And so I hope we get to see some more of that this week too. Yeah, Retribution was so good. We need Retribution 2.0. Yeah, Stephen, I'm sensing some sarcasm there. I'm sensing some sarcasm there. Oh, maybe. If not, make your case, my friend. But yes, I would disagree, though. All right, guys, that's NXT. That is NXT. Join us tomorrow. Not this Thursday because of Thanksgiving. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll post the time on Twitter so that you guys know exactly when to tune in. It'll probably be around 1 or 2 Eastern. We will do our full episode of our regular flagship fireside chat. We'll talk all the news of the week. We'll recap Full Gear. We'll talk about Monday Night Raw, any other news that comes up. And then we'll also preview tomorrow night's AEW Dynamite. You're not going to miss that show. It's going to be really fun. Should be really, really interesting. Lots to talk about. That's for sure. All right, Stephen, thank you. Azan, thank you. Dr. Ross, thank you. Sean, thank you. Joel, thank you. And everybody else who joined us. Appreciate it. Enjoy NXT tonight. And we'll catch you tomorrow. See ya.